Good evening, my dear friend. Welcome back to the Sleepy Professor. I'm so happy you're here with me tonight. Really, truly happy. Because this is our time together. You and me, in this quiet little corner of the world where everything just slows down. You know that feeling when you finally sit down after a long day and you can actually feel your shoulders drop, your breathing get deeper? That's what this space is for. This is where we let go of all that rushing around, all those deadlines and notifications and things that need doing. Here, we just exist. We just breathe. And tonight, we're going to talk about something really special, something that's been on my mind lately. We're going to talk about trees, but not just any trees. I want to tell you about the ancient ones, the old souls of the forest, the ones that have been standing in the same spot for thousands of years. Can you imagine that? Thousands of years. While entire civilizations rose and fell, while languages were born and forgotten, while the whole world changed over and over again, these trees just stood there, growing so slowly that you'd never notice it happening. A whole human lifetime might pass, and to these trees it would feel like maybe a season or two, maybe just a long afternoon. So get comfortable wherever you are right now. Maybe you're in bed, maybe you're in a cozy chair, maybe you're just lying on the floor staring at the ceiling. Wherever you are, just settle in. Let your body sink into whatever's holding you up. Take a deep breath in through your nose and let it out slowly through your mouth. Good. Do that again if you want. There's no rush here. We have all the time in the world. Now, close your eyes for a moment if that feels good. Picture yourself standing in a forest, not just any forest, but an ancient one. The air is cool and damp, and there's this earthy smell all around you, like rain on soil and moss and old wood. The light filtering through the trees is soft and green, almost underwater-like, and all around you these massive trees rise up, their trunks so wide you couldn't wrap your arms around them even if 10 people held hands in a circle. Their bark is thick and deeply grooved, telling stories in patterns you can trace with your fingers. And when you look up, way up, you can barely see where these trees end because they just keep going and going into the misty sky above. Let me tell you about the first of these ancient giants I want us to explore tonight, the coast redwood. Have you ever seen one in person? If you have, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, just try to imagine the tallest building you've ever seen, and then imagine it's alive, breathing, growing, made of wood and bark and life. These redwoods, they grow along the coast of California, in these foggy forests where the air is almost always moist and cool. And some of these trees, they've been growing for over 2,000 years. 2,000 years. That means there are redwoods alive today that were already old when the Roman Empire was still around, already old when people were building the pyramids. Think about that for a second. Really think about it. These trees grow so slowly that if you sat and watched one for your entire life, you probably wouldn't see much change at all. Maybe it would get a little taller, maybe its trunk would get a bit thicker, but you'd have to pay really close attention. Each year, they add just a tiny layer of new wood, a ring so thin you can barely see it. But year after year, century after century, those tiny layers add up. They accumulate, and eventually you have this massive towering giant that reaches over 350 feet into the sky. That's taller than the Statue of Liberty, taller than most skyscrapers, and it all happened so slowly, so patiently, one tiny layer at a time. I find something deeply calming about that, don't you? In our world, everything is so fast. We want results yesterday. We want to see progress now, immediately, right this second. We're always checking our phones, refreshing our feeds, looking for the next thing, the new thing, the thing that just happened 5 minutes ago. But these redwoods, they don't care about any of that. They don't even know what fast means. They just grow at their own pace, the pace that nature set for them millions of years ago. And you know what? They're doing just fine, better than fine, actually. They're magnificent. When you stand at the base of a redwood, you feel something shift inside you. At least, I do. There's this sense of perspective that washes over you, this understanding that you're just a tiny blip in the grand scheme of things. And that's not a bad feeling, not at all. It's actually kind of freeing, because if you're just a tiny blip, then maybe all the things you're worrying about, all the things that seem so huge and important right now, maybe they're tiny too. Maybe they're just little moments in a much bigger story. And maybe, just maybe, you don't have to rush through everything. Maybe you can take your time, just like these trees do. The bark of a redwood is something special too. It's thick, really thick, sometimes over a foot thick, and it's soft and fibrous, almost spongy when you touch it. Run your hand along it, and you'll feel how different it is from other trees. This bark is like armor, like a protective blanket wrapped around the tree, protecting it from all sorts of things. Fire, for instance. These forests, they get wildfires sometimes, and you'd think that would be the end of the trees. But no, that thick bark works like insulation, keeping the intense heat away from the living wood underneath. The fire might char the outside, might leave black scars running up and down the trunk like ancient tattoos, but the tree survives. It keeps growing. It's been dealing with fire for thousands of years. It knows how to handle it. It's seen worse. It's weathered bigger storms, and it's still standing. You know what else is interesting? Sometimes, after a fire passes through, you can see these caves, these hollow spaces carved into the base of a redwood, where the fire burned through, and you might think, oh no, the tree is damaged, it won't survive. But walk past that same tree a few years later, and it's still growing, still putting out new branches, still reaching for the sky, because the redwood doesn't need every part of itself to be perfect. It just needs enough. It adapts. It works with what it has. And honestly, isn't that something we all need to remember? We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to have it all figured out. We just need enough. We just need to keep going, keep growing, keep adapting to whatever comes our way. And the roots? Oh, the roots of these redwoods are fascinating. You'd think that trees this tall, these giants that can reach higher than a 30-story building, would need to have roots that go really deep, right? Like they'd need to anchor themselves way down into the earth to keep from toppling over in the wind. But actually, redwood roots don't go that deep at all. They only go down about 6 to 12 feet, which when you think about how tall these trees are, that's nothing. Instead, they spread out horizontally, wide and shallow, reaching out in all directions like fingers searching for something to hold on to. And here's the really beautiful part, the part that gets me every time I think about it. They intertwine with each other. The roots of different trees weave together underground, creating this massive network, this web of connection that you can't see from the surface, but that's holding everything together beneath your feet. So these trees aren't really standing alone at all. They're holding each other up. They're connected, supporting one another, sharing resources through these underground networks. There's even fungi down there, mycorrhizal fungi that help the trees communicate and share nutrients. Scientists have discovered that trees can actually send chemical signals through these fungal networks, warning each other about pests or sharing sugars with trees that need help. It's like they're all part of one big family, one big community that's been growing together for centuries. Can you imagine being part of something like that? Being so deeply connected to everyone around you that you're literally holding each other up, sharing what you have, helping each other survive and thrive. There's something really beautiful about that idea, something we've forgotten in our modern world, where we're taught to be independent, to stand on our own, to not need anyone. But these trees teach us that we're not meant to do everything alone. We're meant to be connected, to support each other, to grow together. And maybe when we're struggling, when we feel like we're about to fall over, it's because we've forgotten how to let others hold us up. We've forgotten how to reach out our roots and intertwine them with the people around us. Now let's think about what it means to grow that slowly. A redwood might add, what? Maybe an eighth of an inch to its diameter each year, maybe less, depending on the conditions, depending on how much rain fell, how much sun reached down through the canopy, how cold the winter was. That's almost nothing. You couldn't measure it with a regular ruler. You'd need special tools, precise instruments, and yet over 1,000 years, over 2,000 years, that adds up to something truly massive. It's like the opposite of how we usually think about growth. We think growth has to be explosive, dramatic, noticeable. We want to see results fast. We get discouraged if we don't see immediate progress. But these trees are showing us a different way. They're showing us that the most lasting growth, the most solid and strong growth, happens slowly and steadily over time. Think about it like this. Imagine you're trying to build something in your own life. Maybe you're learning a new skill, like playing an instrument or speaking a new language. Or maybe you're working towards a goal, like getting healthier, or becoming more patient, or learning to manage your anxiety. And every day, you do just a tiny bit. Maybe you practice your scales for 10 minutes. Maybe you learn 5 new words. Maybe you do one small kind thing for yourself. Maybe you take 3 deep breaths when you start to feel overwhelmed. It doesn't feel like much, does it? On any given day, you might look at what you did and think, that's nothing, that barely counts. I should be doing more, but what if you kept doing it? What if you did that tiny thing every single day for a year, for 5 years, for 10? What would you have built by then? What kind of person would you have become? That's what the redwoods are teaching us. That small, consistent actions over long periods of time create something incredible, something that lasts, something that can't be knocked down easily. Because when you build slowly, you build strong, you build deep, you build with patience and care, you build something that has roots, something that's connected to its foundation, something that can weather the storms when they come, and they will come. The storms always come. But if you've been growing slowly and steadily, if you've been building that foundation one tiny layer at a time, you'll be able to stand firm. The redwood forests, they have this quality of timelessness about them. When you walk through one, and I really hope you get to do this someday if you haven't already, it feels like you've stepped out of normal time, like you've walked through a door into a different world where the usual rules don't apply. Everything is quiet, not silent, but quiet. There's a difference, you know. Silence is the absence of sound, but quiet is this gentle presence, this soft hush that holds everything together. You can hear birds somewhere up in the canopy, so high above you they might as well be in another world, calling to each other in voices that echo down through the green light. You can hear the wind moving through the needles, making this soft shushing sound, like the forest is breathing, like it's alive and aware, and watching you with gentle, ancient eyes. Maybe you hear a stream somewhere in the distance, water moving over rocks, patient and persistent, doing what it's been doing for thousands of years. And underneath it all, beneath all these soft sounds, there's this deep silence, this sense that these trees have been here forever, and will be here forever, and the little human dramas happening in the world outside the forest don't really matter much in the grand scheme of things. It's humbling, you know, but in a good way. It puts things in perspective. When you're standing next to a tree that was already ancient when your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents were born, when it was already old before your country existed, before the borders on the map were drawn, before any of the things you think of as permanent were even imagined, suddenly your own problems seem a little smaller, a little more manageable, not unimportant, mind you. Your feelings are real, your struggles are real, your pain is real, but just in proportion. It's like the tree is reminding you, gently, kindly, that life is long and time is patient, and there's room for everything to unfold at its own pace. Your heartbreak will heal, your worry will pass, The thing that feels impossible today might feel manageable tomorrow, or next week, or next year. And that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, let me ask you something. When was the last time you let yourself move slowly, really slowly? Not because you were forced to, not because you were stuck in traffic or waiting in line at the store, but because you chose to. When was the last time you did something at a pace that felt too slow, almost uncomfortably slow? When was the last time you ate a meal and actually tasted every bite instead of shoveling food into your mouth while scrolling through your phone? When was the last time you walked somewhere and actually looked at the things around you, really looked, instead of just trying to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible? Most of us never do that. We're always rushing, always trying to optimize and streamline and get more done in less time. We eat breakfast while checking our emails. We listen to podcasts on double speed. We skim articles instead of reading them. We're constantly multitasking, constantly moving, constantly trying to squeeze more into every moment. But what if we didn't? What if we let ourselves be slow on purpose, just to see how it feels? The redwoods, they know all about this. Every year when spring comes, they grow new needles, bright green and soft, different from the darker, older needles already on the tree. And they do it slowly, one needle at a time, one branch at a time. There's no rushing. The tree doesn't worry that it's not growing fast enough, that the tree next to it is producing more needles, that it's falling behind. It just grows at its own pace, the pace that's right for it. When winter comes, they don't panic. They just slow down even more, conserving their energy, letting the cold settle in, waiting for the sun to return. They trust the cycle. They trust that spring will come again, just like it always has, just like it always will. They don't worry about it. They don't spend the winter anxious and stressed, wondering if maybe this time will be different, if maybe this time spring won't come. They just wait, patient and still, deeply rooted in the knowledge that everything happens in its season. And speaking of cycles, let's talk about the seasons these trees experience. In the redwood forests, the seasons are subtle. It's not like other places where you get blazing hot summers and freezing cold winters. It doesn't get very cold here, and it doesn't get very hot. The temperature stays pretty moderate year-round. The fog rolls in from the ocean almost every day, especially in the summer, keeping everything cool and moist. That fog is actually one of the most important things for these trees. They pull moisture right out of the air through their needles, drinking the fog. So the changes from one season to another are gentle, gradual. Spring might bring a little more rain, a little more growth, a greening up of the forest floor. Summer might be slightly drier, slightly warmer, but not much, not enough to really stress the trees. Fall and winter blend together in this long, cool, wet period where the forest just rests, gathering its strength for the next growing season, letting the rain soak into the ground, refilling the streams, washing everything clean. The trees respond to these subtle shifts in their own time. They're not in a hurry. They don't need to rush through spring to get to summer. They don't dread winter or wish it away. They just experience each season fully, completely, taking from it what they need and giving back what they can. In spring, they grow. In summer, they photosynthesize, turning sunlight into energy, into sugar, into life itself. In fall and winter, they rest, they conserve, they prepare for the next cycle. And the cycle continues, year after year, century after century, millennium after millennium, this slow wheel turning, this ancient rhythm that's older than memory. There's something we can learn from this, I think, about accepting where we are right now in this season of our lives, whatever season that might be, not always pushing to get to the next thing, the next phase, the next achievement, but actually being present in this moment, this season, right now. Because this moment is all we really have, isn't it? The past is gone. The future hasn't arrived yet. There's only now, only this breath, this heartbeat, this moment of being alive right here, right now. And the Redwoods, in their ancient wisdom, seem to understand this in a way we've forgotten. They don't live in the past, mourning the seasons that have gone by. They don't live in the future, worrying about droughts that might come or fires that might burn. They live right now in this moment, drinking in the fog, feeling the wind, growing their microscopic layer of new wood, just being what they are. Let me tell you something else about these trees. When they're young, when they're just saplings, just little things poking up from the forest floor, they're actually quite fragile. They need the right conditions to survive. They need moisture. They need filtered light. They need protection from wind and extreme weather. And often, they grow in the shadow of their parents, of the older trees around them. They grow slowly in that shade, biding their time, building their root systems, getting strong. And you might look at them and think they're stunted, that they're not thriving, that something is wrong. But actually they're doing exactly what they need to do. They're being patient. They're building a foundation. And then, maybe after 50 years, maybe after 100, maybe after 200 years of growing slowly in the shade, when an older tree falls, when lightning strikes or wind topples, one of the giants or disease finally brings it down and creates a gap in the canopy, suddenly there's light. Direct sunlight reaches down to the forest floor for the first time in centuries, and that's when the young tree has its chance. That's when it can start growing faster, reaching up towards that light, claiming its place in the forest, joining the canopy. But here's the thing, and this is so important. Those years in the shade weren't wasted. All that slow growth, all that patient waiting, all that time spent building roots instead of height, that's what gave the tree the foundation it needed to take advantage of the opportunity when it came. If it had tried to rush, if it had pushed too hard too fast before it was ready, before its roots were strong enough, it might have shot up tall but weak, and the first strong wind would have knocked it over. But because it grew slowly and steadily, building strength from the ground up, it was ready when its moment arrived. It could grow tall quickly when it needed to, because it had the roots to support that growth. Doesn't that sound familiar? How many times in our own lives are we waiting for our moment, our opportunity, our chance to shine? And how often do we feel impatient during that waiting period, like we're wasting time, like nothing is happening, like everyone else is moving forward while we're stuck in the shade? But what if, like the young redwood in the shade, we're actually building something important during those times? What if we're developing roots, gaining strength, learning what we need to know, becoming who we need to be, so that when our moment comes, when that light finally reaches us, we're ready for it. We have the foundation to support our growth. We have the strength to handle the opportunity. We don't topple over from the weight of success because we built ourselves slowly and carefully when no one was watching. The redwoods can live for over 2,000 years, but they can also die. They're not immortal. Eventually, whether from disease or wind or fire or lightning or just old age, just the slow accumulated weight of all those centuries, they fall. And when a giant redwood falls, it's a major event in the forest. The crash echoes through the trees, the ground shakes beneath your feet, birds scatter into the sky, and suddenly there's this huge gap where there wasn't one before. Light floods in. The forest floor, which might have been in shadow for centuries, is suddenly bathed in sunshine. The temperature changes. The moisture changes. Everything changes. But here's what's beautiful, what always gets me when I think about it, that fallen tree doesn't just disappear. It doesn't become waste. It becomes what's called a nurse log. As it slowly decomposes over the next few hundred years, as fungi and insects and bacteria break it down, it becomes a source of nutrients for new life. Seedlings sprout on top of it, sending their tiny roots down into the soft decaying wood, drinking in the nutrients. Ferns unfurl. Moss grows thick and green. Animals make homes in it. Salamanders hide under its bark. Beetles tunnel through it. Birds peck at it looking for insects. The fallen giant becomes the foundation for new growth, new life. Its death is not an ending, but a transformation, a continuation of the cycle. Everything it accumulated over 2,000 years of growth, all those nutrients, all that stored energy, all that carbon, it all goes back into the forest, feeding the next generation. And this is true for all living things, isn't it? We're all part of these cycles, these great turning wheels of life and death and rebirth. Nothing truly ends. It just changes form, becomes something else, feeds something else, supports something else. The atoms in your body right now, they've been part of other things before. They've been part of trees and rivers and clouds and animals and other people. And when you die, those atoms will become part of new things. You'll feed new life. You'll become part of the soil, part of the plants, part of the air. The redwood understands this. It doesn't fear death because death is just another part of the cycle, another season in the great rhythm of the forest, an ending and a beginning at the same time. So, when you're lying there tonight, trying to fall asleep, trying to quiet your mind, trying to let go of the day, maybe think about the redwoods. Think about their patience, their strength, their quiet persistence. Think about how they grow so slowly that you can't see it happening. But over time, over centuries, they become something truly magnificent. Think about how they support each other, roots intertwined underground, holding each other up through storms and fire and the long passage of years. Think about how they accept each season as it comes, not rushing, not resisting, just being present in the moment. Think about how they don't need to be perfect, how they can survive with hollow centers and fire scars, and still keep growing, still keep reaching for the sky. And maybe, just maybe, you can bring a little bit of that energy into your own life. Maybe you can give yourself permission to grow slowly, to take your time, to be patient with yourself and your progress. Maybe you can remember that you're not alone, that you're connected to others in ways you might not always see, but that are real and strong and supportive. Maybe you can trust the cycle, trust that the seasons will change, that growth will come, that everything unfolds in its own perfect time. Maybe you can accept that you don't have to be perfect, that you can have scars and hollow places and still be strong, still be beautiful, still be exactly what you need to be. Now, let's travel somewhere completely different. Let's leave the cool, misty forests of California and journey across the ocean, across continents, all the way to Africa, to the hot, dry savannas where another ancient tree grows. This tree is so different from the redwood, and yet, in its own way, it teaches us the same lessons about patience and persistence and the slow, steady rhythm of growth. I'm talking about the baobab tree. Have you ever seen a picture of one? They're strange-looking trees. I'll be honest, they almost don't look real. They look like something from a fairy tale, or a dream, or maybe a children's book illustration. Their trunks are massive, swollen, almost balloon-like someone inflated them with air, and their branches, instead of spreading out gracefully like you might expect, instead of reaching up and out in that classic tree shape, they stick up in the air like roots, like the tree is growing upside down, like someone pulled it out of the ground and planted it back in backwards. There's actually a legend about this, several legends actually, from different African cultures. One says that the gods planted the baobab upside down as punishment for its vanity, for complaining that it wasn't as beautiful as the other trees. Another says the tree kept complaining about where it was planted, kept whining that it wanted to be somewhere else, so the gods got annoyed and flipped it over to shut it up. I love these stories. They're charming, and they speak to how unusual these trees look, how otherworldly they seem. But the reality of the baobab is even more amazing than any legend. These trees can live for thousands of years. Some of them are estimated to be over 3,000 years old, maybe even older. It's hard to tell exactly because they don't form clear annual rings like other trees do, and they grow in some of the harshest environments on Earth. The African savanna can be brutally hot during the day, temperatures soaring above 100 degrees. The dry season can last for months, sometimes nearly a year, with no rain at all, just relentless sun and heat and dust. The ground cracks open. Other plants wither and die. Most living things struggle just to survive, but not the baobab. The baobab has figured out how to not just survive, but actually thrive in these impossible conditions. Here's how it works. And it's brilliant, really. That massive swollen trunk isn't just for show. It's not just weird looking for the sake of being weird. It's a water storage tank, nature's own reservoir. During the rainy season, when the rains finally come and water is abundant, when the parched earth drinks deep and everything turns green almost overnight, the baobab soaks it up like a sponge. Its trunk can hold thousands of gallons of water, sometimes as much as 30,000 gallons, storing it in the soft, spongy wood inside. The bark expands. The trunk swells even more. And then, during the long, dry season, during those months when no rain falls and the sun beats down mercilessly, the tree lives off that stored water. It can survive for months, even years, without a drop of rain, using the water it saved up, rationing it carefully, making it last. It's brilliant, really. It's nature's perfect adaptation to a harsh environment, proof that with patience and planning, you can survive anything. And like the redwood, the baobab grows slowly, so slowly. In a landscape where water is scarce and conditions are tough, the tree can't afford to rush. It has to be strategic, patient, careful with its resources. It can't waste energy on fast growth. So, it grows a little bit each year, adding to its girth, strengthening its trunk, deepening its roots. Those roots, by the way, they're incredible. They're not shallow like the redwood's roots. They spread out wide, yes, covering an area larger than the tree's canopy. But they also go deep, sometimes reaching down 100 feet or more, searching for any underground water they can find, any hidden aquifer, any moisture trapped in the rock. The baobab is a master of patience and persistence. It knows how to wait. It knows how to hold on. It knows how to survive when everything else is giving up. During the dry season, the baobab loses all its leaves. Every single one. It stands there, completely bare, looking almost dead, looking like a skeleton of a tree. Just this big, weird trunk with naked branches sticking up into the hot, dusty sky, like gnarled fingers reaching for rain that won't come. You might look at it and think it's dying, that it won't make it, that this is the end. But the tree knows better. It's conserving energy, conserving water, waiting. It's not dead. It's not even dying. It's just resting. It's just being patient. It's done this before, hundreds of times, thousands of times. It knows the rains will come eventually. They always do. And when the rains come, when that first blessed rain finally falls after months and months of dry heat, the baobab explodes with life. Within days, sometimes within hours, it sprouts new leaves, bright green and fresh and full of life. The transformation is almost miraculous. It produces huge white flowers that bloom at night. These gorgeous exotic flowers with long stamens that dangle down like tassels or ribbons. They're pollinated by bats which come in the darkness to feed on the nectar and carry pollen from tree to tree. And eventually, after the flowers are pollinated, after the bats have done their work, the tree bears fruit, these large oval pods covered in a fuzzy coating, filled inside with a tangy, nutritious pulp that animals and humans alike love to eat. The pulp is rich in vitamin C, more vitamin C than oranges, and it can be mixed with water to make a refreshing drink or dried and ground into a powder. The transformation from bare skeleton to lush, living, thriving organism is remarkable, from what looked like a dead tree to something vibrant and alive and generous, all because the tree had the patience to wait for the right moment, the right season. It didn't give up during the hard times. It didn't panic when months went by with no rain. It didn't look around at its situation and despair. It just waited, holding on to its stored water, conserving its energy, trusting that the rains would come, just like they always do, eventually. I think there's something profound here for us to learn. How many times in our own lives do we go through dry seasons? Times when nothing seems to be growing, when we feel stuck, when it seems like nothing good is happening, when we're just surviving day to day with no sense of progress or movement forward. And how often do we panic during those times? How often do we think something is wrong, that we're failing, that we should give up, that maybe the rains will never come for us? But what if, like the Baobab, we just need to wait? What if we just need to conserve our energy, hold on to our resources, stay rooted in who we are, and trust that our season will come? Trust that the rains will return, and when they do, when our moment finally arrives, we'll be ready to bloom. We'll have the energy stored up. We'll have the strength. We'll be able to transform from surviving to thriving almost overnight, because we didn't waste everything during the dry times. We held on. We waited. We trusted the cycle. The baobab is sometimes called the tree of life. And for good reason. It doesn't just sustain itself. It sustains entire ecosystems. Birds nest in its branches, building homes in the crooks and hollows. Bats pollinate its flowers and eat its fruit. Elephants strip bark from its trunk and eat it for moisture during the dry season. And somehow the tree survives even that, growing new bark to replace what was taken. Monkeys climb through its branches, eating the fruit, scattering seeds. Bush babies live in hollow trunks, raising their babies in the safety of the tree's embrace. Insects make homes in its bark. And humans use every part of the tree, the fruit for food and medicine, the leaves for making soup and for treating fever and inflammation, the bark for making rope and cloth and baskets, the hollow trunks for shelter, for storing water or grain, for keeping things safe and dry during the rainy season. Even the seeds are crushed for oil. The baobab gives and gives and gives. It's generous in a way that's humbling, in a way that makes you rethink what it means to be alive, even in the harshest environment, even when resources are scarce, even when it would be understandable to hoard everything for yourself. The baobab finds a way to support life around it. It finds a way to give. And here's something that really gets me, something that I find deeply moving every time I think about it. Baobabs can survive with their insides completely hollowed out. Sometimes, whether from fire or from elephants, eating the soft inner wood, or from natural decay, or just from the slow passage of time, the inside of the trunk becomes hollow, completely hollow. You can walk inside some of these trees. There's enough room for several people to stand comfortably. You'd think that would kill the tree, right? You'd think that a tree with no center, with nothing but empty space inside, couldn't possibly survive. But no, the baobab keeps living, keeps growing, because all the living wood is actually on the outside, just beneath the bark in the cambium layer. The hollow center doesn't matter. The tree doesn't need it. The tree is fine. In fact, these hollow baobabs are often the most useful to the community around them, the most valued, the most important. They've been used as bars, as prisons, as shelters, as storage spaces, as meeting places. There's a famous hollow baobab in South Africa that was turned into a pub, a bar where people would sit inside this massive ancient tree and have a drink and talk and laugh. Can you imagine? Sitting inside a living tree that's thousands of years old, surrounded by its walls, protected by its presence. There's something metaphorical about this too, don't you think? something that speaks to our own experiences. Sometimes we feel hollow inside. Sometimes we feel like something essential has been carved out of us, like we're not whole anymore, like we're broken in some fundamental way. Maybe we've lost someone we loved. Maybe we've failed at something important. Maybe life has just worn us down, taken things from us piece by piece until we don't recognize ourselves anymore. But maybe, like the baobab, we can still grow. Maybe we can still live, still give, still be strong and beautiful and useful, even if we're not quite the same as we used to be, even if we're hollow in places we used to be solid. Maybe being hollow doesn't mean being broken. Maybe it just means there's space inside us now, space that can be used for something new, something different, something we haven't discovered yet. Maybe that hollow space can become a shelter for others. Maybe it can become a place of gathering, a place of community, a place where life happens in new and unexpected ways. The barb flowers are worth talking about too. They're these large, beautiful white flowers with long stamens that dangle down like tassels or exotic jewelry, and they only bloom at night, which is magical in itself, which feels like a secret the tree is sharing with the darkness. As the sun sets and the heat of the day finally fades, as the air cools and the sounds of the savannah change from the buzz of daytime insects to the calls of nighttime creatures, these flowers open up, slowly unfurling their petals. Their scent is sweet and musky, strange and beautiful, and it attracts bats, which come swooping through the darkness to feed on the nectar and pollinate the flowers in the process. By morning, when the sun rises and the heat returns, the flowers have wilted and fallen. They only last one night. One single night of blooming, one brief moment of beauty, and then they're gone. But that one night is enough. It's all the tree needs. The bats do their work. The flowers get pollinated, and months later, the fruits develop. Those night-blooming flowers, brief as they are, serve their purpose perfectly. They don't need to last forever. They just need to do what they're meant to do in the time they have. And isn't there something beautiful in that? Something we need to hear? We live in a world that's obsessed with permanence, with things that last forever, with leaving a legacy, with making our mark. But maybe not everything needs to last forever. Maybe some things are meant to be brief, to shine brightly for a moment and then fade away. And that's okay. That's enough. Those moments still matter. They still serve their purpose. They still create something beautiful and necessary. The flower that blooms for one night still produces the fruit that feeds the community. The moment of joy that only lasts a few minutes still changes something in you. The conversation you have with a stranger that you'll never see again still leaves an imprint on both of your hearts. Not everything needs to be permanent to be meaningful. The baobab also has this amazing ability to survive damage in ways that would kill other trees. If a branch breaks off in a storm, the tree doesn't panic. It just seals off the wound and keeps growing. If lightning strikes it, it adapts, it heals, it continues. If elephants tear off huge strips of bark, the tree grows more bark. It's resilient in the deepest sense of the word. It doesn't avoid damage. It doesn't somehow manage to live a charmed life where nothing bad ever happens to it. Bad things happen to it all the time. It lives in a harsh environment. It faces challenges constantly, but it has this capacity to absorb the damage, to integrate it into its structure, to keep going, despite the scars. And actually, sometimes the scars make it stronger. Sometimes the hollow spaces make it more useful. Sometimes what looks like damage from the outside is actually adaptation, transformation, a new way of being. I think about this a lot when I'm lying awake at night, thinking about my own life, my own scars, my own hollow places. We're so hard on ourselves when we get damaged, aren't we? We think we should be pristine, perfect, unmarked by life, but that's not how life works. Life leaves marks. Life creates scars. Life sometimes hollows us out in places, and that's okay. That doesn't mean we're broken. It means we've lived. It means we've survived things. And like the baobab, we can keep growing, keep giving, keep being beautiful and useful and strong, even with our scars, even with our hollow places, maybe especially with our scars and hollow places, because they're proof that we've weathered storms and lived to tell about it. You know what else I love about the baobab? It's not competitive. It doesn't try to crowd out other trees or steal their sunlight. In the savannah, baobabs often grow far apart from each other, each one standing alone in the landscape, each one having plenty of space. And unlike in a dense forest where trees compete for light and resources, the baobab just does its thing. It doesn't worry about the other baobabs. It doesn't compare itself to them. It doesn't try to grow faster or bigger or better than them. It just grows at its own pace, in its own way, responding to its own environment, its own conditions, its own particular piece of earth. And maybe that's another lesson we need to learn. We're so caught up in comparison, in measuring ourselves against others, in worrying about whether we're doing as well as the person next to us. But what if we're all baobabs in our own patch of savannah? What if we each have our own conditions to deal with, our own amount of rainfall, our own soil quality, our own challenges? What if comparing ourselves to others makes as much sense as one baobab looking at another one a mile away and feeling bad about itself? We're each growing at our own pace, dealing with our own climate, responding to our own circumstances, and that's exactly as it should be. The baobab also has this relationship with time that I find fascinating, because it grows so slowly, because it can live for thousands of years. It experiences time differently than we do. A human lifetime is just a blip to a baobab, just a brief moment, like a season. The tree that was there when your great-grandmother was born will still be there when your great-grandchildren are old. It connects generations in a way that few other things can. People come to the same baobab throughout their lives, at different stages, in different seasons of their own personal journey, and the tree is always there, constant, patient, holding space for all of it. There are stories of families who have gathered under the same baobab for generations, for centuries. The tree becomes a meeting place, a landmark, a witness to countless human stories. Proposals happen under it. Children play in its shade, elders sit beneath it and share stories. Funerals are held near it, celebrations happen around it, and the tree just stands there, silent and steady, watching it all, holding it all, providing shade and shelter and fruit and water, year after year, generation after generation, century after century. And in a way, that's what these ancient trees do for us. Whether we realize it or not, they remind us that we're part of something bigger than ourselves, something that stretches back before we were born and will continue long after we're gone. They remind us that our individual lives, precious as they are just brief chapters in a much longer story. And there's something comforting about that, something that takes the pressure off. We don't have to do everything. We don't have to fix everything. We don't have to be everything. We're just one chapter, one season, one small part of the cycle, and that's enough. Our small part is enough. The baobab's relationship with water is also worth thinking about more deeply. It teaches us something about preparation, about planning ahead, about being ready for hard times before they come. When the rains are falling and water is abundant, it would be easy for the tree to just enjoy the moment, to take what it needs and let the rest run off. But instead it stores up water, as much as it can hold, preparing for the dry times it knows will come. And when those dry times arrive, it's ready. It has what it needs to survive. What would it look like if we lived like that? If during our good times, our abundant times, we stored up what we needed for the harder times? And I don't just mean money, though that's part of it. I mean emotional resources, memories of joy that we can draw on when we're sad, practices that sustain us, like meditation or exercise or creative expression, that we establish during the easy times, so they're there for us during the hard times. Relationships that we nurture and invest in, so that when we need support, it's there. Skills that we develop so that when challenges come, we have tools to deal with them. You know what's amazing? The baobab tree doesn't sit around waiting until it's absolutely desperate before it starts storing water. It's smarter than that. While the rain is falling, while water is everywhere, the tree is already thinking ahead. It's filling up its trunk, absorbing every drop it can because it knows something important. The dry season isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And there's something really comforting about that kind of wisdom, isn't there? We can learn from that. We can do the same thing in our own lives, not in some anxious, paranoid way where we're hoarding everything out of fear, but in a calm, peaceful, prepared kind of way, building up our reserves when things are good, so that when our own dry season arrives, and it will, because life works in seasons for all of us, we have something to draw on. We have our own version of that stored water in our trunk, ready to help us survive whatever drought comes our way. And here's the beautiful part. When the Baobabs' dry season finally ends, when those first drops of rain start to fall again, the tree doesn't clutch onto all that stored water like some precious treasure. It doesn't say, no, this is mine. I went through too much to save this. Instead, it pours everything out. It uses all that stored water to push out new leaves, these bright green signs of life. It produces flowers that bloom in the night. It makes fruit that will feed hundreds of creatures. The tree takes everything it saved, everything it held on to during the hard times, and transforms it into something new, something that gives life to others. The fruit that grows from the baobab becomes food for monkeys and elephants and people. The flowers feed bats that come in the darkness. Even the leaves, when they eventually fall to the ground, they break down and feed the soil, making it richer for the next generation. Nothing is wasted. Anything's wasted. Everything the tree stored up gets given back, but not in the same form. It's transformed, multiplied, turned into something that creates more life, more abundance, more beauty in the world. And maybe that's one of the deepest lessons the baobab has to teach us, that whatever we store up inside ourselves, whatever we save and protect during our difficult times, it's not meant to stay locked away forever. Eventually, it's meant to be shared. Eventually, it's meant to be transformed into something new and given back to the world. Our struggles, those dry seasons we all go through, they're not just obstacles to overcome and forget. They're experiences to learn from, to grow from, and eventually to share with others who might be going through their own drought. The wisdom we gain from our hardest times that can become like the baobab's fruit nourishment for someone else who's hungry for hope. The strength we develop while enduring difficulty that can become like the shade the tree provides, shelter for someone else who's feeling exposed and vulnerable. The resources we stored up, the resilience we built, all of that can eventually become like the baobab's flowers, something beautiful that feeds life in ways we might not even see. Now these two trees, the redwood and the baobab, they couldn't be more different on the surface. The redwood grows way up in the cool, misty forests of Northern California, where fog rolls in from the ocean and everything is green and damp. The baobab stands alone in the hot, dusty savannas of Africa, where the sun beats down relentlessly and rain is a precious gift that comes only a few months a year. One tree shoots up tall and straight like an arrow pointing to heaven. The other is squat and swollen, with a trunk so wide it looks like the earth itself is bulging up. The redwood grows in these thick forests, surrounded by dozens or hundreds of other redwoods, all growing together, all connected underground through their roots. The baobab often stands by itself, the only tree visible for miles across the flat grassland, like a solitary giant keeping watch over the plains. They're complete opposites in so many ways, different climates, different shapes, different strategies for survival. But here's what's incredible. Despite all these differences, they're teaching us the exact same fundamental truths. Both of them are masters of patience. Both of them understand persistence in ways we've forgotten. Both of them know that real lasting growth happens slowly and steadily, not in sudden bursts. Both of them trust the cycle of seasons' peers, the wet and the dry, the abundant and the scarce, the active and the dormant. Both of them have learned how to not just survive the hard times, but to use those hard times to become stronger. And both of them give back to the world around them in countless ways, supporting entire ecosystems with their presence. So as you're lying there right now, feeling your breathing slow down naturally, feeling your body start to relax and settle deeper into whatever you're resting on, maybe you can let these lessons sink in with you. Maybe you can let go of that pressure you've been carrying, Mindtez, that feeling that you need to grow faster, achieve more right now, be perfect and polished and without any scars or struggles. That's not how real growth works. That's not what nature teaches us. Maybe instead you can trust that your slow, steady growth is not just okay, it's exactly right. Those tiny layers you're adding each day, the small steps forward that sometimes feel invisible, they're building something strong and lasting inside you. You might not see it yet, just like you can't see a tree growing if you stare at it, but it's happening. It's always happening. And maybe you can remember that you're not alone in this. Even when it feels like you are, just like the redwood is held up by all those other trees around it. Connected through roots you can't see, you're connected to others in ways that aren't always visible. There's a network of support around you, even when you feel isolated, even when you feel like that solitary babe standing alone on the plain. There are connections, there are relationships, there are roots intertwining beneath the surface. Maybe you can trust that your dry seasons, however long they last, they will end. The rains always come again. That's the promise of the cycle. And you have the strength inside you to wait, to endure, to survive until they do. You've already survived every difficult day you've ever had. You're still here, still breathing, still growing, even if it doesn't feel like it. And just for a moment, let yourself imagine what it would feel like to actually be a tree, to be rooted deep, deep down in the earth, your roots spreading out in all directions, going down and down and down into the darkness. Those roots anchoring you so firmly that no wind could knock you over. Those roots connecting you to the earth itself, drawing up nutrients and water and life force from deep underground. Feel how solid that is, how secure, how stable. Feel your trunk strong and solid, holding you upright without any effort. Your trunk carries all your history, every scar, every hollow place where a branch broke off, every ring that marks another year survived. And all of that is held with grace, with acceptance. Nothing needs to be hidden or fixed. It's all part of your story, part of what makes you strong. Feel your branches reaching up and out in every direction, spreading wide, reaching toward the sky. Your branches touching the air, touching the light, maybe even touching the branches of other trees nearby, intertwining, supporting each other, creating a canopy together. Everything connected, everything supporting everything else, even as each tree stands on its own roots. And inside you, deep inside, feel that slow, steady pulse of growth. It's so slow, you almost can't feel it. But it's there. Every moment, every day you're adding another microscopic layer, another ring of growth. It's patient, this growth. It's not rushed. It's not anxious. It just is. The way breathing just is. The way your heart beating just is. This accumulation of strength and height and wisdom happens over time, and time is something trees understand better than almost anything. As you breathe right now, imagine you're breathing the way a tree breathes. Trees breathe differently than we do, but they do breathe. They take in carbon dioxide, which we breathe out, and they breathe out oxygen, which we need to live. It's this perfect exchange, this balance. They need what we give, we need what they give. Everyone breathing together, everyone part of the same system. So breathe slowly now, deeply. Feel your breath going in, filling your lungs completely, and then flowing out, leaving your body soft and relaxed. In and out, in and out. Taking in what you need, giving back what others need. Being part of the exchange, part of the cycle, part of the great breathing of the whole earth. Your breath becoming even slower now, even deeper, finding its own rhythm, like the seasons find their rhythm, like the ocean tides find their rhythm, like those slow ancient patterns that have been going on since long before you were born and will continue long, long after you're gone. And as your breath slows down, as your body relaxes more and more, as your mind gets quieter and quieter, maybe you can feel yourself becoming part of that ancient rhythm, part of the slow, patient, steady growth that nature does so well, part of the cycle of seasons that keeps turning, keeps flowing, keeps moving forward without rush but without stopping either, part of the great family of all living things, all connected to each other, all supporting each other in ways we don't always see, all growing together in their own way, at their own pace, each one under their own particular patch of sky. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough for tonight. Just being part of it all. Just breathing. Just existing in this moment. Just being alive right here, right now, in this season of your life, in this particular place in your own growth journey. Not needing to be anywhere else. Not needing to be anyone else. Not needing to rush forward or look back. Just being you right now, right here, breathing slowly, growing slowly, resting in the quiet knowledge that you are exactly where you need to be. The trees are still out there, you know, right now, as you're lying here. The redwoods are standing in their misty forests on the California coast. The fog is probably rolling in through their branches, those ancient giants barely visible in the darkness. And the baobabs are standing in their savannas in Africa, under a sky full of stars so bright you wouldn't believe it if you haven't seen it yourself. They're still there, still growing, still breathing, still standing strong, and they'll be there tomorrow morning when the sun comes up. They'll be there next week, next month, next year. They'll be there 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, still growing, slowly, still standing strong, still teaching their patient lessons to anyone who stops long enough to listen, to really listen. And right now, in this quiet moment, you've stopped. You've slowed down enough to listen. You've opened yourself up to hear their wisdom, to feel their presence, even though they might be thousands of miles away from where you are. And maybe some small part of that ancient patience has settled into you now. Maybe a little bit of that deep-rootedness has found a home in your chest. Maybe a seed of that quiet strength has been planted somewhere inside you. And maybe you can carry it with you minds into your sleep tonight, into your tomorrow, into all your tomorrows stretching out ahead of you. Maybe you can remember when things feel rushed and frantic and overwhelming, when it feels like everyone else is moving faster than you, when it feels like you're falling behind or not doing enough. Maybe you can remember that somewhere in the world, right at that moment, a redwood is growing one layer at a time, so slowly you'd need scientific instruments to measure it. A baobab is standing patient in the heat, waiting for rain that it knows with absolute certainty will come, even if it takes months. And if they can do it, if they can grow, slowly and wait patiently and trust the cycle, then so can you. You can grow slowly. You can wait patiently. You can trust your own cycle, your own seasons, your own timing. You know what else the baobab does that's worth thinking about? Its flowers. We talked about how it makes fruit, but the flowers come first, and they're something special. The baobab doesn't bloom for long. The flowers only last for about 24 hours, just one single day. They open up at dusk, these huge white flowers, bigger than your hand, hanging down from the branches, and they smell strange. Some people say it's a musky smell, kind of sour even, not the sweet perfume smell you might expect from a flower. But those flowers aren't meant for people, or even for bees. They're meant for bats. The bats come in the night, drawn by that smell, and they feed on the nectar and pollen. They stick their little faces deep into the flowers, and pollen gets all over their fur. Then they fly to the next baobab, and the next one, spreading pollen from tree to tree, helping them reproduce. It's a partnership that's been working for thousands of years. The tree feeds the bats. The bats help the tree make seeds. Everyone benefits. And by the time the sun comes up, those flowers are done. They've given everything they have to give in their short life. They fall to the ground, already withering, already over. But they've done their job. They showed up fully in their moment. They bloomed when it was their time to bloom, gave everything they had, and then let go without any resistance. Isn't there something beautiful about that? About showing up completely in your moment, even if that moment is brief. About blooming when it's your time, giving everything you have, and then letting go without regret or wishing things were different. The baobab doesn't mourn its fallen flowers. It doesn't try to hold on to them or make them last longer than they're meant to. It just moves forward to the next phase, the next season, the next part of the endless cycle. And the fruit that comes after those flowers, that's really something remarkable. In some places, people call it monkey bread, because monkeys love to eat it. It's this hard oval pod covered in a velvety shell that feels soft when you touch it. You'd have to crack it open, and inside you'd find this dry white pulp that's packed with nutrition. It has more vitamin C than oranges, way more actually. It's got calcium for strong bones, potassium for your heart, antioxidants, fiber, all sorts of good stuff packed into this unlikely looking fruit. And here's what's amazing. The Etziv fruit can last for years without going bad. The dry pulp just sits inside the pod, perfectly preserved by nature, waiting. It doesn't rot, doesn't spoil, just stays good year after year. Animals know this. They break open the pods with their teeth or hooves, eat the pulp, and in the process they swallow some of the seeds. Then they wander off across the savannah, and eventually those seeds come out, already fertilized and ready to grow, deposited miles away from the parent tree. New baobabs start growing in new places. It's a perfect system, so elegant and efficient, developed and refined over thousands and thousands of years of evolution. People have been using baobab fruit for as long as there have been people living near these trees. They mix the pulp with water to make a drink that's refreshing and healthy. They use it in their cooking, adding it to porridge or soup. Some people eat it straight, just breaking open a pod and chewing on the sour-sweet pulp. And in times of famine, when the crops fail and other food sources dry up, the baobab fruit has literally kept entire communities alive. That's why they call it the tree of life. It gives and gives and gives. Even in death, the baobab keeps giving. When one of these trees finally dies, which is rare because they're incredibly resilient and can live through almost anything, it doesn't fall over with a crash like other trees do. Instead, it seems to collapse inward, sort of dissolving into itself, turning into a heap of fibers. And even those fibers are useful. People gather them up and twist them into rope or weave them into cloth, or use them for thatching roofs. The tree literally gives until there's nothing left to give, until it's been completely transformed into things that serve life. Now, I want you to come with me somewhere in your imagination. Close your eyes if they're not already closed, and picture this. You're standing in the African savannah. It's late afternoon, almost evening, and the heat of the day is finally starting to ease up. All day it's been so hot that the air seemed to shimmer above the ground, but now there's a slight breeze, just a whisper of coolness that hints at the night to come. The sky is putting on a show. the way it does out there where there's nothing to block the view. Orange and pink and purple are spreading across the horizon, these incredible colours painting themselves across the entire dome of the sky. The sun is dropping lower, getting bigger and redder as it approaches the horizon, and there, standing in the middle of this vast flat landscape, alone like a sentinel, is a baobab. It's absolutely huge, ancient. Its trunk is so wide that if 20 people held hands in a circle, they still couldn't reach all the way around it. The bark is rough and grey, wrinkled like elephant skin. Its branches reach up into the sky like twisted fingers, gnarled and spread out in all directions, silhouetted dark against that brilliant sunset. It looks almost like the tree is upside down, like someone planted it with its roots in the air, which is actually what some African legends say happened. You start walking toward the tree. Your feet crunch on the dry grass with each step. The grass is golden, dried out from months without rain, waiting patiently for the wet season to come. As you get closer, the size of the tree becomes even more overwhelming. It's like approaching a living building, something that belongs more to geology than botany, more like a rock formation than a plant. You reach the trunk and place your hand on it. The bark is rough under your palm, warm from absorbing the sun's heat all day, and you can almost feel the life inside this tree, the thousands and thousands of gallons of water it's holding in its swollen trunk, keeping itself alive through this long, long dry season. It's like touching something both ancient and alive, both stone and living wood, both solid and somehow fluid at the same time. You start walking around the trunk, and it takes you a while because the tree is just so enormous. As you walk, running your hand along the bark, feeling it change from rough to smoother and back to rough again, you start thinking about time, about all the years this tree has been standing in this exact spot, all the sunsets it's watched, thousands upon thousands of them, each one probably as beautiful as this one, all the storms it's weathered, nightling strikes that left scars in its bark, the winds that tested its strength, the years of drought that would have killed lesser trees. You think about all the animals that have taken shelter under its branches, elephants seeking shade in the middle of the day, lions resting in its shadow after a hunt, birds building nests in the crooks of its branches, bats hanging upside down inside hollow places in the trunk during the day, waiting for night to come so they can fly out and feed on the flowers. Millions of animals, millions of interactions, millions of moments of life all centered around this one tree. You think about all the people who've passed by this tree over the centuries. Nomadic herders moving their cattle across the plains, hunters tracking game, families traveling from one place to another, children playing in its shade while their parents rested, people gathering its fruit, breaking off its bark to use for medicine or rope, collecting water from the hollow places where rain collected. All of human history in this region has happened within sight of this tree. And you realize that you're standing next to a living monument, not to any war or king or human achievement, but to patience itself, to persistence, to the simple, profound power of showing up every single day and doing what you're meant to do. This tree didn't get this enormous by rushing. It didn't get this old by panicking or forcing anything. It got this way by growing slowly and steadily, day after day, year after year, century after century, just being a tree, just doing tree things, growing, storing water, making flowers when it was time for flowers, making fruit when it was time for fruit, providing shade and shelter and food and medicine, existing being. And standing there with your hand on the ancient bark, you think maybe, just maybe, you can be a little more like this tree. Maybe you don't have to rush through everything. Maybe you don't have to panic when things feel hard or dry or slow. Maybe you can just keep showing up, keep doing what you're here to do, keep growing at your own natural pace, trusting that it's enough, trusting that slow and steady isn't just okay, it's actually the way that lasts, the way that builds something real and strong and capable of weathering any storm. The sun touches the horizon and seems to melt into it, and the colors in the sky intensify for just a moment before they start to fade. In the savannah, night doesn't ease in gradually like it does in other places. It comes fast. The light drains out of the sky quickly, and the temperature drops with surprising speed. The warmth of the day bleeds away into the vastness of the clear sky above. As you stand there by the baobab, now just a dark shape against the darkening sky, you start to hear the sounds of night arriving. Insects begin their chirping, a steady rhythm that will continue until dawn. Somewhere in the distance you hear the whooping call of a hyena, that sound that's somehow both laughing and menacing at the same time. There's a rustle in the grass nearby, some small animal, maybe a mouse or a hare, starting its nightly search for food. And above you, the stars come out. First just a few, the brightest ones, appearing like tiny holes poked in the fabric of the sky. But then more and more, hundreds, thousands, until the entire dome of the sky is filled with them. Out here, far from any cities, far from any electric lights, you can see the full glory of the night sky, the way humans saw it for hundreds of thousands of years. The Milky Way stretches across the darkness like a river of light, this band of stars and cosmic dust so dense it almost glows. And the baobab stands there beneath all those stars, just like it has for thousands of years, the same constellations that its ancestors grew under when they were just saplings, the same moon that's been cycling through its phases for billions of years, the same sun that will rise tomorrow morning in the east. Just like it always has, everything changes. The animals change, the people change, even the landscape slowly changes. And yet everything stays the same. The cycles continue. The seasons turn. Life flows on, slow and steady and patient and persistent. Both the redwood and the baobab, these two incredible trees from completely opposite parts of the world, are teaching us the same essential lesson, just in different languages. The redwood, standing tall in its cool, foggy forest, shows us that growth happens through connection, through community, through supporting and being supported. It shows us that even the tallest, most magnificent tree started as nothing more than a tiny seed, smaller than your fingernail. It shows us that real strength doesn't come from rushing or forcing, but from patience, from adding one microscopic layer at a time, year after year after year, until something truly magnificent has been built. The baobab, standing alone in its hot, harsh savanna, shows us something equally important. It shows us that survival isn't about avoiding the hard times that's impossible. The hard times will come no matter what. Survival is about enduring them. It's about storing up resources when times are good, building up your reserves so that you can make it through when times are bad. It's about knowing when to rest, when to conserve your energy, when to wait patiently for things to improve. And then, when the moment is finally right, when the rains come at last, it's about blooming fully and completely, holding nothing back, giving everything you have. Both trees are showing us that slow is not just okay. Slow is good. Slow is actually the way that nature prefers to do things when it's building something meant to last. Think about it for a moment. Mountains don't shoot up overnight in some dramatic explosion. They rise slowly, pushed up by the movement of tectonic plates over millions and millions of years, one tiny increment at a time. Rivers don't carve out canyons in a single dramatic flood. They flow day after day, year after year, century after century, slowly wearing away the rock, carrying away grain after grain of sand, until eventually a canyon a mile deep has been formed. Stars don't just pop into existence. They're born in these massive clouds of gas and dust floating in space. Slowly, so slowly, gravity pulls the gas together, compressing it, heating it up, and this process takes millions of years. Only after all that slow preparation does nuclear fusion finally ignite in the core and a star begins to shine. Even then, it will burn for billions of years, slowly fusing hydrogen into helium, patiently working through its fuel supply until it finally reaches the end of its life. Everything important, everything lasting, everything truly strong and beautiful and worth having takes time. It happens slowly, layer by layer, moment by moment, day by day. And we, living in our modern world with our fast everything minds, fast food, fast internet, fast results, instant gratification, we've somehow forgotten this fundamental truth. We've convinced ourselves that faster is always better, that we need to rush through everything, that if we're not seeing immediate, dramatic results, then we must be failing. But that's not how nature works. That's not how real growth works. That's not how life works. Not if you want to build something that lasts. The ancient trees know this. They've been doing this for thousands of years, millions of years. If you count all their ancestors stretching back through evolutionary time, they've figured out the secret. And it's so simple that we keep overlooking it. Just keep growing. Slowly and steadily through all the seasons, through all the changes, through the good times and the bad times. Just keep growing. Just keep being. Just keep doing what you're meant to do, at your own pace in your own time, without comparing yourself to anyone else. And eventually, without you even really noticing when it happened, you'll have become something amazing, something strong, something beautiful, something that lasts. So tonight, right now, as you're drifting deeper and deeper towards sleep, let yourself be slow. Let your thoughts move slowly, like honey dripping off a spoon, thick and unhurried. Let your breath move slowly, each inhale taking its time, each exhale releasing everything without any rush. Let your heartbeat slow down, finding its resting rhythm, that steady, patient pulse that keeps you alive without you ever having to think about it. There's no rush. There's nowhere you need to be right now. Nothing you need to accomplish. No problem you need to solve. No decision you need to make. Right now, in this moment, the only thing you need to do is rest. Just rest. Just be. Just exist. Like the ancient trees exist. Patient and present and perfectly, completely themselves without apology or explanation. And maybe tomorrow, or the next day, or someday soon when you need it, when you're feeling rushed or pressured or anxious, when it feels like everyone else is moving faster than you and you're getting left behind, when it feels like you're not growing fast enough or accomplishing enough or being enough. Maybe you'll remember the redwoods and the baobabs. You'll remember that the most magnificent things in nature, the things that last for thousands of years, they all grow slowly, and you'll give yourself permission to take your time, to move at your own pace, to trust the process, even when you can't see the results yet, to trust yourself, trust your own timing, trust your own season. Because you're growing too, you know, right now, even as you lie here relaxing, you're growing. Maybe you can't see it. Maybe it feels like nothing is changing, like you're stuck in the same place you were yesterday or last week or last year. But you're adding layers, just like the trees do. Invisible layers of experience, of wisdom, of strength, of resilience. You're building something inside yourself that will last. You're deepening your roots into what matters, reaching your branches toward your own light, becoming more fully yourself with each passing day. You're exactly where you need to be, in exactly the season you need to be in. This might be your rainy season, where everything is growing rapidly and life feels abundant. Or this might be your dry season, where you're conserving energy and waiting patiently for things to improve. Either way, it's the right season. It's your season, and that's perfect. That's exactly enough. You are enough right now, just as you are. The ancient trees, they don't worry about whether they're growing fast enough. They never look at the tree next to them and think, that tree is growing faster than me. I must be doing something wrong. They're not stressed about their progress. They're not anxious about their future. They're just being trees, doing what trees do, following the instructions written into their very cells, trusting the process that's been working for millions of years. And maybe we can learn to be a little more like that. Maybe we can learn to trust our own inner process, to be patient with ourselves, to remember that growth takes time, and that's not just okay. That's how it's supposed to be. That's the only way it can be, if it's going to be real and lasting and true. So, sleep well tonight, my friend. Sleep deep and peaceful and restful, like the ancient trees rest through the winter, saving their energy, waiting patiently for spring to come. And when you wake up tomorrow, maybe you'll feel a little more patient with yourself, a little more willing to take your time, a little more connected to those slow, steady, eternal rhythms of nature and life and growth that have been going on since the beginning and will continue long after we're all gone. Sweet dreams, and remember, you're growing, always growing, even when you can't see it. Just like the ancient trees, slow and steady and strong and beautiful. Good night.